The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the bizarre, tragic story of Lori Daybell, who went from loving mother and wife to serial killer. Here's the story. We call Lori Daybell the doomsday cult mom. She's convicted of killing her fourth husband and trying to kill her niece's ex-husband. That's after she was already convicted in Idaho for the murders of her two youngest children, 7-year-old JJ and 16-year-old Tylee, as well as for conspiring to kill her fifth husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. In July of 2023, she received 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors argued that Daybell's extreme religious beliefs, which included apocalyptic prophecies and labeling her children as zombies, motivated the murders. The children's remains were discovered in 2020 on her fifth husband, Chad Daybell's property in Idaho. Now, Lori is breaking her silence from behind bars, and she makes some shocking claims. Hear what Lori says about her children's bodies being found and what she thinks will now happen to her and Chad. Did she admit to anything? Get ready. This hour will be absolutely fascinating for anyone who has followed this story at all, the story of Lori Vallow Daybell, because Nate Eaton from the East Idaho News had an opportunity to sit down and speak with Lori Daybell for 38 minutes, covering a wide range of topics. You're going to see that interview tonight. Right now, let's take a look.
Good to see you.
Nate, such a pleasure.
Have a seat. And
long time coming, huh?
It has been.
So the media put out their narrative. They kept on with it. The state went along with it. The state leaked stuff to the media to say what they wanted.
What's false about the narrative?
Oh my gosh, everything.
Your children were found dead in Chad's backyard. That's not wrong. Tylee was chopped up and burned. That's not wrong.
No, that's all mixed up. That wasn't.
I saw photos of JJ wrapped in plastic and duct tape. That wasn't wrong.
Okay. I understand what you're saying of those facts. Those facts in and of themselves are wrapped around a whole lot of untruth.
Wow. Okay. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation. What is Lori's story? What's her story? What story is she telling? Here to answer that question tonight, Nate Eaton, news director, reporter, storyteller for EastIdahoNews.com. Nate, great to see you tonight. You know, for folks who followed the story, the reason they followed the story is because you broke the story. So I just want to make sure that they all understand that, who you are and your background in all of this. So for a couple questions off the top. 1, why did she do this interview? 2, is she wearing a whole bunch of makeup in this interview? And 3, were you at all scared to be alone in the room with this mass murderer?
She agreed to do the interview. I think she's wanted to talk to me, Vinny, honestly, because we have communicated over the years on and off through a text messaging app that inmates use. And so I've asked her multiple times to talk to me, and she wasn't ready. And then she ghosted me for several months until out of the blue, the Friday before the interview, she reached out and said, okay, if we were to do the interview, would you air it unedited? And I said, yeah, I would. I'll fact check you after, but we'll air it unedited. And then it came together very quickly. And I think she wanted to say some things to me and also wanted to share some things that have been on her mind. As for the makeup, she is wearing makeup. I did not give her the makeup. Our team did not give her the makeup. But she is very talented, I guess you could say, in using stuff that they get inside the jail to put on makeup, such as Jolly Rancher candies or crayons or colored pencils. You can get those items wet. And I've been told this. I have not tried it, just so you know, Vinnie. Also, your last question was, I forget what it was, so you can ask it again.
Were you at all scared to be, not scared, but like a little tentative about being in the room, sitting right next to? She comes up, shakes your hand with a mass murderer who you basically tracked down.
You know, I was nervous to do the interview because with her, I didn't know where it was going to go. I don't think I was scared for my safety. She has been pretty much a model inmate, not caused any problems. I was shocked that she wasn't handcuffed, and I was surprised that she was able to reach out and shake my hand. I had been told that I was to remain in my seat when she walked in and not to touch her, not to have any sort of physical contact. But she reached out her hand, and so I returned the handshake. She was very polite, very charming, you could say, but I don't know if I was scared with her. Now, if she were to say, hey, let's go back to my cell, or, you know, come with me to, and while I teach you more, I probably wouldn't have gone that far, but it was definitely an interesting 40 minutes.
Yeah, because, I mean, someone with nothing to lose at this point. So let's get into it. Let's show folks part of what she was telling you as we try to answer the question, like, what is her story?
You said that this has all been a family tragedy.
Yes.
And it has been a huge tragedy.
Absolutely.
All of this.
Absolutely.
4 juries have said you and Chad and Alex caused the tragedy.
Yeah. That's the judicial system.
But how do you argue with that if all of this evidence came out that showed, you know, that you, Chad...
The only evidence that ever came out is the evidence state wanted to put forth.
Well,
they manipulate the evidence to make it look however they want, and guess who helps them?
So if Tylee killed JJ and then felt bad and committed suicide, how did she die first?
She didn't.
She didn't?
That's part of their whole fake narrative. That's
Who burned her and chopped her up?
That's part of everything that they were doing. I lost my children. I lost them.
But because of what you did.
What did I do to them?
You arranged with Alex to conspire to kill them.
No, I did not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Did you know that they were in Chad's backyard? Or
No, I did not know that. I did not know where they were. Alex told me that he put them in a safe place. That's what he told me.
So did you find out at the court, at the first trial? Is that the first time you'd seen those autopsy photos?
Yeah, I hadn't ever seen them.
Are you really blaming this all on Tylee?
No, absolutely not. I'm saying Tylee had a really hard life, and people don't understand. So how does that tie
into her death and your son's death and Charles being shot and Brandon being shot at and Tammy's death?
Okay, all those things connected, right? It's a domino effect. So in 2017, I was told by the Lord that I was going to become like Job and lose everything. Will I do this job if I lose everything? And so this domino effect of things happened. This is all the Lord's doing. And guess what? He's going to come forward and tell it all. Tammy died of natural causes.
The coroner disagreed with that. The coroner.
Which coroner are you talking about? The one the state put on?
Brenda died, the county coroner.
Okay.
Who said she was asphyxiated. So aren't her kids victims?
Okay, no. Do her kids feel like they're victims? No, they don't. They understand the truth.
Did you have anything to do with Joe's death?
No.
Did Alex?
No.
Did you and Chad have anything to do with Alex's death?
No, absolutely not. We were very surprised. No.
What were you and Chad and Alex doing in the storage unit, moving the tire and the seat back and forth on the day that Brandon was shot at and the day after?
So that's so silly that is. So there was stuff in my garage that I was starting to move into the storage unit. That's what we were doing. And so I moved that stuff in there.
But the tire on the Jeep?
I moved stuff that had been in there. It was just sitting in there. It had been sitting in there. So I didn't have enough room to park. So I couldn't carry it. It was heavy. So I had Chad help me put it in. And the next day, Alex was like, where's all that stuff in the garage? And I was like, I went and put it in the storage unit. He was like, oh, I need that. So we went and got it. And that was it.
The night before Alex died, he told Zulema, I think I'm their fall guy. Was he?
No, absolutely not. And I don't think he ever said that.
I've interviewed several jurors. You may have seen the interviews.
I haven't seen any juror interviews, none.
And
I have no access. I'm in here 23 hours a day. I'm in max security. We don't have access to anything.
Well,
so I haven't seen anything for a year and a half since I've been over here.
They've said they were disappointed that they wanted to hear from you, that you didn't have a defense, especially in Idaho.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If I get up on the stand and Trina Kay's sitting there, or
Rob
what's her
Wood.
name? Lindsay Blake, Rob Wood, right? And they're standing there. Are they going to let me tell Tylee's story on the stand? You know they're not. They're going to object every 2 seconds.
If it's relevant to the case.
I'm writing it out. No, they won't, because they don't want me to tell that story because it's opposite of their narrative. It crushes their narrative.
When is this narrative going to come out? When are you saying the full story is going to come out? Like your side, what really happened?
So I'm writing it. And I'm going to write out every single thing from beginning to end so that people can really understand.
Oh, my goodness. So she's got her own story.
You ready to read that, Vinny?
She's got her story, but it hasn't been written yet. Is that basically the takeaway of what her story is?
It's hard to pin down her story. Bottom line, Vinny, she has changed it. She doesn't give straight answers. She gives bits and pieces of it here and there. But when you put it all together, it just doesn't make any sense. And believe me, I went into this interview open-minded. I really wanted to hear her say something because she really hasn't. In all of her trials, she never took the stand. She never put on a defense. They never called one witness, presented any evidence at all. So this was kind of her chance, I was hoping, to help us make sense of it all. And unfortunately, we didn't get very much. We did get some, but not, all the answers we were hoping for.
Well, are they answers or are they just a story, right? That's sort of the way I'm looking at it. But, and I also understand why she didn't testify based upon you asking some great cross-examine type questions, and she could not handle it. She got unraveled very quickly. She starts speaking really quickly when she knows she's backpedaling and she's kind of cornered by facts in the case. Let me ask you this. What's your overall take of where she is mentally? Is she delusional? Is she mentally ill? Is she faking it? Where is she in the spectrum? How would you define what you experienced in those 40 minutes?
Well, I went in knowing that at least 5 or 6 psychiatrists have diagnosed her with religious delusions, grand religious delusions. I believe she truly believes a lot of what she says religiously. All of it, I don't know. But on the other hand, I also believe she understands the charges that were brought against her. And she also knew when the kids were missing to withdraw their money and flee to Hawaii with Chad. So she says that all of this is, God is in control and has commanded her to do all of these things. But there clearly is some mental illness there. That was an issue in Idaho for 10 months. She was incompetent for trial. She went to a hospital, was evaluated over and over and over, and ultimately they found her competent here. It was also raised in Arizona briefly, and they found her competent. So in the eyes of the law, she is more than competent and did go to trial. But I do believe she has these religious delusions that she is holding on to.
Yes, still holding on to. And she's not stupid, and that's the other part that comes up. Right, here's the great news. Nate is staying with us for the whole hour. We've got a lot more to get to. Up next, does Lori admit to anything?
So, Lori, if you could go back 6 years ago, June of 2019, would you change anything that's happened over the past 6 years?
Oh, that's a good question, Nate.
The Court TV Podcast will return.
Miracles are on the way. I'm an instrument in God's hands. In this unfair judicial system, anybody could be found guilty of anything. And I would say to the people, I would say, be careful who you're judging, because anybody could end up in orange. You could be living your little life in the suburban bubble like I was, and anybody could end up in orange. Anybody, because they can turn this on anybody.
Well, she wasn't just living her life. I mean, there were a pile of bodies piling up all around her. Everyone near her was dying, so she wasn't just living her life. That's Lori Daybell, sat down for 40 minutes with Nate Eaton from EastIdahoNews.com. Take a look at another piece of that interview.
Did you ever think you'd have the title of convicted serial killer?
No, do I?
Well, for people
I mean, I guess you could technically say that, but everyone in the world knows that I didn't hurt anyone. I've never hurt anyone in my whole entire life.
Well, years ago, everybody I've talked to, your friends, family, say you were a great mom, so much fun, loved to dance, loved music, loved to travel. You were the light of the party. And here we are in a jail. How did you get from there to here?
God put me here for his purpose.
Third-party culprit, God, apparently. Wow, amazing. And with that, it brings us to the next question in our investigation. Amazing. Pointing the finger at God. Does Lori admit to anything in this interview? Back with us, Nate Eaton, EastIdahoNews.com. What's your reaction to her pointing the finger at God?
Oh, I had a feeling that that's where this interview was going to go very quickly, and it did within the first minute or so. I had been told by people who communicate with her often that if you let her, that's all she wants to talk about. And so the challenge was to bring her back to specific points and to point out that, okay, would God really tell you to do some of these things? And she stood by the fact that, yes, he did, or that what I was saying was not fact, that I had the facts wrong, and that what the state presented at their trials was wrong, and that it was all this shaped narrative. So I knew quickly that she would pivot to religion, and that is something she loves to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Let's get to more of the interview here, to see if she admits to anything, like anything. Take a look.
So, Lori, if you could go back 6 years ago, June of 2019, would you change anything that's happened over the past 6 years?
Oh, that's a good question, Nate. I don't think I could, because we were foreordained to do this mission, right? The Lord is using Chad and I right now, and this is what he's told us, as instruments in his hands. What do you think he's trying to teach the people, especially his people? His church. What do you think he's trying to teach his people right now while he separates the wheat from the tares? He has to have an earthquake. It has to be so detrimental. It has to get everybody's attention. Our case has done that. And what is he doing with that divide? He calls it, you know what Jesus told me? He calls it the great divide. What do you think he's doing with it?
I don't know, but
He's teaching people not to judge. Don't judge something. You weren't there. You don't know what happened. Don't judge. That's what he's doing. And he's separating the wheat from the tares right now in his own house. And he's using Chad and I to do it.
So what if you end up going to Pocatello in a few weeks and spending the next 30 or 40 birthdays there behind bars?
That would be God's will, but I'll tell you right now, that's not going to happen.
It is
not going to be 20 or 30 years. No, it is not going to be 20 or 30 years. Everyone in the LDS church is saying, prepare. Gather Israel on both sides of the veil. I was going to the temple. I went to the temple every day for like 3 years. I was doing all Charles' family's work. I was doing all my family's work. I was gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. And Jesus came there. That's his house. And he talked to me, and he told me that he needed me to do a mission for him. And this is what we're doing. And the media has turned it all around. He's using us as instruments in his hands to separate the wheat from the tares.
Did you ever think...
And people are choosing. Do you know how many people have left the church over our case? Which, what does our case have to do with the church? Nothing. It has nothing to do with the church. We're not against the church.
She doesn't really admit anything, does she?
No, she doesn't. I guess you could say she admits that people died, but we know that. But beyond that, no. She is wrapped into this fact that Jesus is going to come and save her, and that she is one of the chosen ones. Which, go back, Vinnie, you know, when we first started to cover this six years ago, that spurred this whole thing as to why Charles Vallow wanted a divorce from her in the first place. She was talking like this, saying that she was the leader of the 144,000 people that will usher in Jesus Christ. He was concerned that this didn't make any sense. So between that date in 2019 and this date, nothing has changed as far as her belief.
Is it still difficult for you to believe that somehow she took religion and twisted it into this and all these people died?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that doesn't make any sense. She's taking little bits and pieces, cherry picking teachings of Christianity, of the LDS faith, of whatever she has there. And you could have millions and millions of people that will say, hold up, you're not saying exactly what is true or what it is. Now, I will say, Vinnie, that if you are someone that maybe is a loner, or someone who needs a friend, or someone who is vulnerable or easy to be manipulated, can you see how Lori might be able to suck you in? If someone like this comes and talks to you and is convincing and tries to teach you these things, you can see how she might gain a little bit of a following. She certainly is well spoken. She certainly can present her ideas clearly. And if she's able to do that, you might be able to see how some people might follow her, because what she's saying is weird or crazy enough that you might just want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I always thought she was good at convincing people of things. She convinced 5 men to marry her.
And we saw in those police interviews, too, you just had a clip on the screen, she was good at telling the police what happened. It was convincing. I mean, they never took her into custody, and they let her go. She was very good at coming up with things on the spot, at being able to pass these thoughts through, or at least get people to believe her in the moment. And here she is again on, doing this interview with me, saying the same sort of ideas, trying to convince people to follow her.
Unbelievable. Nate Eaton is staying with us. We've got much more to get to in this interview. An interview unlike any interview. This is the interview we've been waiting years for, and you're watching it tonight. Obviously, you can watch the whole thing on EastIdahoNews.com. Up next, what does Lori think of Chad?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of Lori Daybell, a woman who seemed to live a charmed life and got everything she wanted, including 5 husbands, until the bodies started piling up and she was discovered to be a serial murderer. Here's the story.
Lori Daybell and Chad Daybell's descent into apocalyptic delusion culminated in a series of chilling murders that shocked the nation. In 2019, Lori's 2 youngest children, 7-year-old JJ and 16-year-old Tylee, vanished. Their remains were later discovered buried on Chad's Idaho property, revealing JJ had been asphyxiated and Tylee's body dismembered and burned. Prosecutors argued the couple's extremist beliefs led them to view the children as zombies possessed by evil spirits. Lori was convicted in 2023 and sentenced to life without parole, while Chad received the death penalty in 2024. And now Lori is a convicted killer in Arizona after being found guilty of killing her 4th husband. She was also convicted of trying to have her niece's ex-husband killed. Lori is now speaking out from jail, making more shocking claims about her and Chad. She even makes more baffling comments about her dead daughter, Tylee.
So Lori was arrested first before her husband, Chad Daybell, was arrested. And just before he was arrested, it was his last day of freedom. He was there when investigators came to his house and were searching the property. And during that time, he made a phone call to Lori. Let's take a listen back to that phone call.
Hi, Dad.
Hello.
Are you okay?
So they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. It's logical.
Yeah.
So we'll see what transpires.
Okay.
If they don't
What do you want me to do? Pray.
What?
What do you want me to
Yeah,
do?
pray.
So at that point, Lori's locked up and Chad is a free man at that point, and it still seems that Lori really cares for Chad. But then you remember at Chad's trial, his attorney, John Pryor's closing argument, I hope you remember this. Take a look.
Alex Cox murdered Tylee Ryan. Lori Vallow knew what was going on because her beloved little brother, or beloved big brother, could be tagged for the murder of Charles Vallow, and those two kids saw it. And Alex Cox took the body after he murdered Tylee Ryan. He took it out somewhere and he burned the body.
So there, John Pryor pointing the finger at Alex Cox and Lori Daybell during that trial, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. What does Lori think of Chad? She still love this guy? Here to answer that question, Nate Eaton from EastIdahoNews.com sat down for 40 minutes alone with Lori Daybell. Let me ask you this. Give me first your take on this relationship, Lorie and Chad, from the beginning, this so-called love story. How would you describe it to someone?
Very passionate, I guess you could say. They met at a religious type of a conference, and within a few minutes, Chad was already telling Lori that they had been married in previous lives, and that she was a goddess, and that really whatever they did here on earth was okay because they had lived before in previous lives. And friends, and this came out of their trials, that within days they were spending time together, calling each other, having this full-blown affair within just days of meeting each other. And within a year, both of their spouses are dead and they're married on a beach in Hawaii. So it moved very, very quickly. And it makes you wonder how well you can get to know somebody that quickly, really get to know them, which is kind of where I wanted to go with Lori in my interview with her. Like, okay, we know that you love his religious side. We get that. But what else about him do you like?
So let's take a listen to more of the interview as you talk a little bit about Chad Daybell.
You told me years ago Chad was the best man you've ever met.
Chad is a very kind person, yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
So besides his spirituality, what else attracts you to Chad?
He's a wonderful person. Everyone who knows him knows that.
How often are you able to talk with him?
So we aren't really speaking.
By your own choice, or just because it's not allowed from like prison to prison?
Yeah, like the way that the mail works here is very difficult.
I see.
So we're only allowed to get postcards. Like you can't send a letter to the jail itself, and so there's difficulties within that.
But you still love him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've said you'll be exonerated, and he will too.
Absolutely, we will.
Will that be before he's executed?
Yes, Nate, before he's executed.
So does it bother you, though, that in Chad's trial, he blamed it on you and Alex?
It's so different what goes on behind the scenes in a high-profile case. Okay, there's strategies going on, there's defenses going on, there's all these things going on that you wish, like, why can't we just go in and tell our side of the story? The attorneys are like, you can't do that. We have to come up with a defense, and we have to do this, and we have to do this, and like, why don't we just go? Why isn't it, you thought, like, if you've never been in the judicial system, which I hadn't before, you thought they get to tell their side of the story, what they think happened, you get to go in and tell your side of the story of what happened, and then the jury gets to decide. And that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. And it's so sad and disappointing that that's...
So you think, Chad, they had to come up with a defense just to have one in court? You don't think he really believed or blamed all of this on you and Alex?
Absolutely. And I know that for a fact because John Pryor came and told me that prior to trial.
He did. He said, this is going to be our defense.
He said, I'm going to blame you, and Chad doesn't want me to, and he wants you to know that.
Why has Chad been excommunicated?
Is great. So I think that was false, too. That was mean. That was mean.
To excommunicate him?
Absolutely.
Are you still a member?
As far as I know.
Nate, are you surprised that neither one of them called each other as witnesses for their case so they could spend some time together inside the courtroom, at least see one another physically?
That would have been incredible to watch, to hear what they have to say. I will say there was one hearing, I believe just one, where the two of them were in the courtroom together. And the way they situated it was Chad was at one table, Lorie was at the other, and they put their attorneys in between them so they couldn't really look at each other. But during a break, the attorneys stood up to stretch their legs and kind of walked. And I watched the two of them, and they looked at each other and smiled and mouthed "I love you" to each other. As far as I know, that's the only sort of in-person contact that they have had with each other. But it would have been something had one called the other to testify.
Yeah, I always thought, like, especially in her first trial, like there was no defense. They did nothing. And then she's her own lawyer. She could call whoever she wants. I'm sure he would have perhaps gone, or maybe he wouldn't have gone. I don't know. So what are the rules? What do you expect the future to be in terms of what, if any, communication they will have in Idaho?
Yeah, once she gets back to Idaho, it will be different because they'll both be within the prison system and both of the cases will be resolved. It can be difficult for inmate to communicate with inmate. They can get permission from the Department of Correction to allow that to happen. They could argue because they're married, they should be allowed to communicate. I don't know if I foresee that, though. If it is allowed, I could see them communicating with each other all day, every day. That's how it was when she was first arrested. Chad Daybell spent thousands of dollars calling her, speaking for hours, and the police had to go through all of those recordings. And it was, they said it was like teenagers, just, teenagers that had a crush on each other, just kind of nauseating stuff. I know that when Lorie was on trial in Idaho, she did not want her attorneys to go after Chad at all. The bodies were found on his property. She could have easily blamed it on him. And in closing arguments, one of her attorneys called Chad Daybell's books stupid, said that she got caught up with a guy who writes stupid books. Lorie was infuriated. She was shaking. She was crying. She would not talk to her attorney, the fact that he called his books stupid. So she very much still loves this man, very much is standing by him, and won't say anything harsh about him.
And do you think the genesis of their affection for each other comes from the same place? Because I'll give you my theory. My theory is Chad had never had the attention of someone quite like this before, with the bouncing blonde hair and the blue eyes and all of that. And from her perspective, she had never had the attention of being called a goddess before, someone who was, beyond human before. What are your thoughts along those lines on what brought them together from each other's perspective?
I think you're pretty accurate, Vinny, based on, all of the people I've spoken with in this case. Chad was always kind of the homely guy that didn't have much going on. And suddenly this beautiful blonde woman comes in and shows an interest in him. And we saw in the trial that they manipulated each other. That there several times in text messages, Lorie would threaten to cut it off, say, go spend time with your family. You don't need me. And he would instantly say, no, I need you, and pile on the compliments and really boost her ego. And here she had this guy who would, it appears, do anything for her. You kill her children, do whatever to be with her. I think that your assessment is pretty accurate.
Nate is sticking by, still to come. What did Lorie say about her daughter, Tylee?
She was sexually abused by her dad from the time she was 3 years old and forced by family court to go to him for 10 years. You don't think that was hard on her?
This is the Court TV Podcast.
You say Jesus is your friend.
Absolutely.
Does he support cheating on your spouse?
We weren't cheating.
Does he support killing your husband?
I didn't kill anybody, ever.
Killing your kids?
I didn't kill anybody.
Killing your boyfriend's wife?
Okay. Was I in Hawaii when Tammy died? How did I kill her?
Unbelievable. Nate Eaton asking all the questions that you want to ask Lori Daybell. Let's talk about Tylee. Tylee was a teenager. Like, she was a very mature teenager. And in her police interviews, her story seemingly backed up Lori's story about what happened to Charles. Take a listen.
I fell to the ground, and then my uncle kind of like, I saw him take a step back, so my uncle, I think, grabbed him and kind of took him back so he couldn't like do anything.
You saw your stepdad like take a step back?
Take a step back because he was really close to begin with, and then and so my mom said to go with JJ, and so I ran out the door. Eventually, my mom came out, and then we left from there.
Okay.
And I remember in another police interview, Tylee was sort of protecting her mom and almost taking up that role. It was an interesting relationship they had, and that brings me to the next question in our investigation. What did Lori say about Tylee, her little girl? Still here, helping us through all this, Nate Eaton. Nate, I want to get right to the interview right now because I have a lot of questions on the back end of this about what she says. So let's take a listen.
Why didn't you tell all this to the police?
So,
why didn't you tell them all this when you were arrested? Explain this to them. You know, God's told me to do this. Give your defense.
really? What happens to people when they say God told them to do something? They lock them up.
Well,
I'm locked up.
Well, whatever the reasoning, if you really did think Tylee was responsible for this, why don't you tell the police? She had chronic, pancreatitis. Pancreatitis. JJ had autism. All of these things.
All of these things.
Why didn't you tell
She was sexually abused by her dad from the time she was 3 years old and forced by family court to go to him for 10 years. You don't think that was hard on her? She was in the hospital all the time. She had chronic pain.
Why not tell the police all this?
At the very beginning, or what are you talking about? Tylee was forced to go to him for 10 years by the courts, hated it, came home and cried, screamed, kicked, hit Colby, hit Cole, hit Zach, scratched him, yelled, threw things through the walls, was a nightmare, had night terrors, never slept at night. Tylee never went to sleep before 3 o'clock in the morning. She's 5 years old. She can't go to sleep. I have to stay in bed with her till 3 o'clock in the morning rubbing her back because she can't sleep because bad people wake you up in the middle of the night to do bad things to you, Mommy. And so Tylee was a nightmare. Charles thought she was a brat. I didn't discipline her. Then I was in the hospital with her watching her scream and writhe in pain while she's on morphine because it doesn't work. You can't understand what happened with Tylee and JJ unless you understand what happened to Tylee in her life. You have to know Tylee's whole story from beginning to end. And when you know what happened in Tylee's life, you start to understand. The understanding, the lights click on. But nobody has said that. Do you know how many of Tylee's birthdays we spent in the hospital with her screaming in pain while she's on morphine, and the morphine isn't enough to take away the pain?
Wait. Are you really blaming this all on Tylee?
No, absolutely not. I'm saying Tylee had a really hard life.
Okay. First, on all this description of Tylee's life, have you been able to verify any of this? Have you heard this stuff before from other sources?
She did have pancreatitis when she was growing up and was hospitalized several times. But that didn't keep her from doing everyday activities that a teenager does. I would say, Vinny, this was probably the most frustrating part of the interview for me. The fact that she's even discussing all of these very personal details of her daughter. And at one point she says, Tylee was a nightmare. Your daughter is dead, and the manner in which they found her was just so horrific. And here's Mom talking about how it was so hard because Tylee had all these health issues, and she was abused, and this and that and the other thing, and then insinuating that, she committed suicide or died herself and felt bad doing that because she had accidentally killed JJ. I mean, just the whole thing, and I know that infuriates the family more than anything too, because it simply is not true.
Yeah, that's a provable lie. It was proven at the trials. Like we saw and heard all the evidence in the case against her, implicating her brother Alex as well. How about Alex? Did she reveal anything about their relationship? Because we talked about that a lot. There was something strange about that relationship.
We didn't have time to get into the specifics of the closeness of them. I had 15 cards that I hoped to get to, and we had a limited amount of time. But she did say that she was surprised when Alex died, and that she didn't know. And his death has been ruled natural, but there's always questions when it comes to this case. And she did say that Alex didn't kill her former husband, Joe Ryan, her third husband, who died of a heart issue, or so it was deemed back then. So she didn't get a chance to get into all of Alex. I had a lot of questions about Alex. It would have been fascinating to talk with her about. But as far as their relationship, just that, she was shocked when he died.
Now, do you think she's really going to write her story? I know she's got a lot of extra time on her hands. I get that. But do you think she's actually going to write this down and tell her story in a book or on paper somehow for people to read?
Well, she said that it is going to be scripture. So she is basically writing her own Bible, Vinny, and her manual for life with the Lord. I believe she's doing it. I don't know if it will ever be released. It appeared to be writing a lot during her trial in Idaho, but I later found out that a lot of times she was just doodling or drawing or just drawing circles. It wasn't that she was actually writing. But I could see her doing it. She walked into that interview with me with a big armful of papers and documents, the same stuff that she brought to court every day during her Arizona trial. And I could see her really kind of, wanting a way to spread her message and spread her story. And we'll see if that ever does come out. She says it will. She said that one day everybody will be reading it.
Well, we'll see. I mean, a lot of people out of curiosity, people that want to study this stuff, obviously will be interested as well. Do you suspect you'll ever talk to her again?
I have not heard from her since our conversation. I did send her a message thanking her for the interview. It ended, I thought, on friendly terms. I mean, she said, maybe we can do this again. I know that the jail is not real happy about her doing other interviews. I mean, they don't really want media coming and going all day long. You can't blame them. She comes back to Idaho in a few weeks after her Arizona sentence, and maybe we'll be able to chat again. There's a lot more I'd want to ask. I think now that I've met with her once, Vinny, if I went back, I could be a little bit more forceful and push back a little bit more now that we kind of have a relationship. And it'd be fascinating to go in with questions that Kay Woodcock has, that the investigators have, that others that have worked this case have. Go in with those type of questions and tell her, Kay Woodcock wants to know, why didn't you just give JJ to her? Brandon Boudreaux wants to know this or that, and see how she responds to the other people asking her questions kind of through me.
Yeah. We have about 15 seconds here. Just final note here on did you learn as much as you thought you were going to learn?
I think so. I don't know what more we could have gone. We could have gone through a lot of other things. I don't know what more we would have gotten from her had I had another hour with her. It was mentally exhausting, I can tell you that. And it gave me a lot to think about and a lot for you and I to talk about as well.
Absolutely. Nate Eaton, always great to see you. Great work as always. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thanks, Vinny. Good seeing you.
All right. It's difficult to figure out Lori Daybell. Is she delusional, mentally ill, or just a selfish sociopath? At this point, I guess it really doesn't matter. She's officially done. Let's just hope the victims can rest in peace and their families can have some level of justice. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.